Good evening and welcome to Dana's Connecting, Coaching and Changing Lives program meet and greet session. It's great to have you all here. Just a brief reminder, I know most people, I'm just seeing people start to filter in, but I know most of you will have been here for the launch session we did last week. So I sound like a real broken record here. Please enter any questions into the Zoom Q&A feature. No doubt you're all acquainted with Zoom and know how that works. The button at the bottom of your Zoom screen rather than the chat just makes it easier for us to keep up with your questions as they come in. So if you could use the Q&A feature, that would be fantastic. And as we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect the meaning of place, and in doing so recognise the various traditional lands on which we do our business today. We acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging of all the land we work and live on, and their ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. And I'd also just like to take a moment to acknowledge all of those who have been impacted by the floods in Queensland and northern New South Wales. We're certainly thinking of you, and we've had some Dana members caught up, unfortunately, in what's a very difficult time. Just a reminder, again, spoke about this at the launch, but we are going to evaluate the CCC program. So keep an eye out for an email inviting you to do this prior to the first session shortly. It's coming up shortly. It's just a survey that we're asking you to complete before and after. And also, if you'd like to participate in an interview, it's your opportunity to look at or talk about how the program's changed your practice, along with suggestions on how we can improve this program in the future. We're really hoping that this is an ongoing program, so we're really looking for your input as participants to improve it and really tell us what you thought of it. And now I'll hand over to Dana's Executive Officer, Colleen Blooms, to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of the program. Just stop sharing, Colleen.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm hoping shortly to be able to get you all on the screen. So I've just got to figure out how to undo all of the videos that are locked at the moment, but we'll get everyone on the screen sooner rather than later, because it would be good for you all to see each other and meet each other, because you're going to be working together. Now, you were probably expecting Darren right now, but I'm actually going to deliver Darren's session because he is flood bound in Lismore. Without power, he can't even listen into what's happening here right now, and he's extremely disappointed about that, as those of you who know him would understand. So I will step in for Darren. Adam's going to keep an eye on the Q&A questions. When I finish this first session, there might be an opportunity to answer some of those questions, and then what will happen is Jason Harrison will take over. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Executive Officer of Dana, and I've communicated with many of you by email in the last several weeks and months. So I kind of feel I know you. So this is our meet and greet session, and it is being recorded. So what I just quickly want to cover is an outline of the sessions. So in the program directory that you received, the sessions that will be covered in the program are actually listed in that by medication topic, by alcohol, benzodiazepines, opiates, stimulants, and so on. I've just forgotten the rest of them. But one of the things that may happen as this is a pilot program, we'll need to be somewhat flexible in the delivery of it. So what might look like it's going to be a session on opiates may well change for that particular month, because speakers aren't available or some other thing has happened. So we just need to be flexible around that. The role of clinical experts I won't even touch on, because Jason is going to speak about that. I will speak in a moment about the role of mentors and the role of mentees. Some of the groups will be closed and some will be open. The very first session of the monthly sessions will be an open group, and that's the session that will be led by a clinical expert, and that will be a session where where you have a chance to build on your knowledge about that particular topic, whether it's alcohol. The first one is alcohol. That'll be delivered by Stephen Ling. And then there'll be a 15-minute discussion. But after that, we will then go into a closed group where issues that might be a little bit more sensitive can be discussed. The other thing we ask people to be really aware of are their boundaries in relation to this program. So you'll need to actually work out with your mentors really what boundaries your mentoring group will want to put in place. But I'll leave that for you to work through in your own groups. I'll speak a little bit more about that later. Someone the other night, I think it was Lee, asked about CPD. Of course, we all need to keep track of our own CPD points and timings and education. But after this program is over, at the conclusion of the program, which is in October, if you've completed 80% of the program, you will also receive a certificate of completion. The resources that you should now have are the program directory or mentoring resource pack. Now, I sent that to the mentors early last week, and I sent it to the mentees this week. So everyone should have had a little chance to actually read that material and have some thoughts about that, and perhaps want to ask some questions about that. There will also be each month some resource materials sent to you as pre-reading prior to the particular topic that's going to be delivered. So in the next week, you will receive information about alcohol, and it will also have a quiz embedded in it. So we will be doing pre and post evaluations of the program, as Adam just mentioned. The very final session for the program will actually occur in Adelaide as part of the Nurse Practitioner Symposium and Dana Annual Conference. It will be a face-to-face session for those of you who can get there, but if you can't get there, we will certainly have it still available as a webinar. But we're hoping as many people as possible actually get there so that we can really get together on a face-to-face basis. And then in October, there is a final session as well. And it's a wrap-up session about really having a talk about what you got out of it, how it could be improved and so on. It's not actually a clinical education or a mentoring session. So to the 6 webinars that we will be providing, as I said, the very first session of the webinar, it's 45 minutes in duration. It's an open group. So it's the first 45 minutes of a 90-minute session, and you will get a break at that 45-minute mark. Each of these open groups will be facilitated by a nurse practitioner, and I just mentioned that Stephen Ling will be the first nurse practitioner to do that, and he will be speaking about alcohol at the end of March. So all of these will be delivered by a nurse practitioner who is a clinical expert in that particular field. There will be some pre-reading that will be sent to you. Following that 45-minute session, it will be followed by a closed group for 45 minutes. And that will be to identify or to address some of the topics that you put down in your expression of interest when you applied to come onto the program. Most people, in fact, all people, put down a few topics that they were interested in knowing more about, and we've collated all of those, and we will use some of those in these closed group sessions that follow the talk by the clinical expert. Sometimes we'll use case studies. It won't always be those topics. Sometimes it will be case studies that Jason has prepared for us. And we're keeping these groups closed because there may be quite sensitive information that you want to speak about in these groups. So they are a closed group and won't be available to anyone who's not on the program. And the closed groups themselves, these peer support webinars, they will also be facilitated by an experienced nurse practitioner. And each of those nurse practitioners will use a different approach. Some will use a more structured approach, and others will use a very semi-structured approach. And really, take the information and deal with it as it comes up. Some of the topics that have come up have been, these came from your expressions of interest, that when you applied, OTP assessment, increasing your clinical review skills, HCV diagnosis and treatment, gaining skills in BBV and STI screening and management, understanding different approaches to withdrawal management, inpatient versus ambulatory, for instance, and strategies to improve overall mental and physical health of patients, confidence in diagnostic decision-making and evidence-based prescribing, interpreting pathology, comprehensive assessment and physical examination, pharmacotherapies. Management of chronic health conditions is something that will come up a lot in this program, and is something that we'll also be incorporating in our Adelaide conference as well. Behaviour change strategies, long-acting buprenorphine. So there's some of the topics that will be covered in those the second half of those 90-minute sessions. I'll move now into the monthly mentoring sessions, because these will happen independent of those 90-minute sessions that I just spoke about. So there will be 4 mentors assigned to work in a small group with, 4 mentees assigned to work in a small group with a mentor. You will meet monthly between the interactive educational webinars. The content itself is to be determined by the group, but we ask the mentors to consider the requested topics and case studies, or whether you want a more open, less structured session. That'll be up to you and your mentors. These are the mentoring groups, and again, I've sent these out, so you've already would have had a chance to see these if you've actually received the if you've had a chance to look at the e-blast that went out with them. So there's 4 mentees to each mentor, and the mentors are Lucinda, Lan, Michelle, Darren and Jason. Now, if you have any issues about the allocation of mentees to mentors, let me know and we'll work through it. We've tried to make sure that, there may be occasionally some sort of line management issue or something that comes up that in a different workplace that we may not be aware of, that we've not been able to take into consideration. So if there are issues, please let me know. But in terms of mentors and mentees, the mentors will make contact with each of the mentees in their group to start the ball rolling about when you're going to actually have your mentoring sessions. Mentees are in the mentoring resource pack that was sent a couple of days ago. There is a plan in there for the mentees to start to develop their mentoring plan. And we ask that that plan is returned to your mentors by the 16th of March, so that they can have a look at the plan and sign off on it as well before you actually have your first mentoring session. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to come up with boundaries that apply to your group situation as to what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in terms of boundaries. For instance, legal or financial advice outside of these mentoring sessions would not be, or inside the mentoring sessions would be something that would not be an appropriate area to delve into, for instance. And there's lots of others that you'll come up with as well. There will be assigned pre-reading for each of the sessions, but I'm going to let Jason speak about these, so I'll just quickly pass by this one. And each month there will be a quiz, an online quiz. It'll tell you if you've got the right answers or not as soon as you do it, and you're required to complete that online. A little bit of administrative matters, which is what I was going to originally speak about anyway. If you can't attend your mentoring group, please advise that directly to your mentor. Don't tell me, go directly to your mentor and let them know that you can't get along to that group for some reason. Setting up your meetings, I can give you some assistance with that to at least get you started. You'll need to decide whether you're going to use Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams. And ideally, once you find your feet with these, you'll be able to organise those sessions yourself, but I'm certainly available to help you get set up initially. The other thing that would be really helpful is if you could provide me with your personal email addresses. What happened over the last few days, as some of you would be aware, I have your work email addresses in some instances and not your private email address. And because people have been away from work due to floods and so on, they haven't necessarily received the emails I've sent. So if you could send me a personal email address, that would be great. And send it to that dana.nurses address. Now, as I said at the outset, there's a need for a little bit of flexibility around the program. The original document that was sent to the original mentees, there have been some changes. Those of you who received this program directly from me in this week, for instance, or even as late as last Thursday, the changes had already been made. But for instance, we were going to have a session on May the 5th, a clinical education and clinical support session on May the 5th, but that's been changed to May the 4th. And that's so it doesn't clash with our Canberra forum. And then on page 8 of your program directory, we've swapped the benzodiazepine session to workshop 2, and we've swapped opioids to workshop 4. So that's just a slight change from the original document. I can make these slides available to you if you can't remember all that, that's fine. And there are a couple of things coming up that you might be interested in. The National Hepatitis Nursing Summit is coming up in March. I won't speak about that because Trish will speak about it in some detail. But if you are wanting to pick up a little bit more on HCV, then there's a HCV in homelessness, AOD and mental health coming up, run by Asham on the 1st of April. And again, we can give you the information about that if you want to get along to it. And of course, our a little promo about our conference is going to be held in Adelaide on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of August, which is developing very nicely, that program. I think that is all I need to say. Adam, are there any questions at this stage? None? Oh.
None yet.
Oh, you've answered some, I see. Yep. Okay. All right. And look, you can put up your hand if you want to ask a question as well, and we will let you speak and ask that question. So I might let Jason have the floor now. Are you there,
Just
Jason?
Before you go,
sorry,
there's a question come up, but it's an anonymous attendee.
Oh,
Oh, it's Lucinda.
Hello, it's me, Lucinda.
Hi, Lucinda.
Hi, I'm one of the mentors. My question was, is there a little tool you can give us to send around to the mentees to easily help them all fill out when their availability is, and then or should we develop our own one? I know there are some little tools you can send around, like little Google calendars, and everyone puts in what they like.
yes. I'll have a look at that tomorrow, Lucinda. That's a good thought, actually, so people can really schedule. I've just forgotten what that's called. That I know what you mean, but I've forgotten what it's called.
Google Meet, maybe?
Doodle poll is one that people use.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Lucinda. Are there any other hand? Oh yes, I see it. Oh, that's Lucinda's hand. Okay. Any other? Oh, did I see Carla with a question? Have you got a question, Carla? Maybe not. Oh. Okay, well, I will turn off my camera and let Jason speak. Sorry about my face being there.
Yep. Okay, guys. look, I'm just here to talk about the clinical expert. I suppose the main thing to be aware of is that with the clinical expert, we're pulling on their clinical expertise, and they're also intertwining that with theoretical knowledge, and they're going to present on particular subjects in regards to the group. And that's just about developing knowledge and education around a particular substance or treatment. And that the other beauty of that is that we will have them in the following session post the education, which you can then ask further questions if you need to. There will be time in the clinical experts session to ask questions, but sometimes there's things that can't be answered within that context there and may be carried over into the session that follows. I think the big thing for people is that how this all come about in some of the things was Darren and I spent a lot of time talking about how do we develop that next generation, but also about expanding practice and integrating hepatitis C as part of a norm for people working in the drug and alcohol sector. In regards to that, obviously there's lots of HCV education and treatment out there, but some of the big things for people is how do I integrate that practice into what I'm doing within the drug and alcohol sector, but also how do we develop that next generation and support them. And it's something that both of us experiences, that when you come out, there's that big steep learning curve of going from an experienced registered nurse working in drug and alcohol to a novice nurse practitioner where the buck stops with you. And so that's where we're at with that. Look, some of the pre-readings will be based on the Addictions Medicines book, and we've got a link in the information that you've been sent there, and it'll take you through to, I think, Booktopia, who are the cheapest there. It's a good read. It's worthwhile getting as part of your library, but it's up to you in regards to, but a lot of the information that we'll base some of our stuff around and questions and quizzes will be based around that book. But as again, you can pull a lot of information from different areas and stuff, and you still come up with the right answers. But I'll leave that to you guys as to whether you want to purchase that or not, or whether you've already got access to it. Again, Colleen's pulled on that it is a program which is a pilot, and it's learning, and it's about peer learning, and it's about supporting each other and all of us growing. Now, even as a mentor myself, I'm not saying I have all the answers. And so sometimes we will send you away to look for some of those answers. Sometimes we know the answer, but we'll still send you away to go and look for it so you learn and develop your own knowledge and skills and stuff around some of that stuff. But we're here to support you in developing your skills and knowledge in working in drug and alcohol. There'll be lots of questions. And again, as Colleen pulled on, there will be that opportunity to, in your mentor sessions, to go through particular areas of practice or things that you want to address or learn about. Other than that, is there any other questions that people would like to ask?
All right. Well, there's a few things coming through on the chat, actually. So a couple of people have said they didn't think they got the program directory. I'll resend that tomorrow. So that's fine. I can get that out to you. So I'm surprised there's no other questions. I would have thought we'd be flooded with questions at this stage. Is there any burning question at all? Is it really straightforward?
I suppose once we start to get going, there'll be more questions, I imagine.
Yes, yes. And the other thing, of course, is any suggestions that you have, such as, what Lucinda put up as a suggestion, or any ideas or questions that come to you after this session, then please send me an email, and we'll deal with them over the next few days, the questions that emerge. What I will do is I will share the small group mentees' contact emails with their mentors, so that you can start to get something happening between you in that group. Darren asked me to tell you that as soon as he's got power again and can use the internet, he will contact the people who are in his mentoring group. There was a question about this book. It's Addiction Medicine by several authors, John Saunders being one of them. There's a photograph like this this is what Jason was referring to. There's a photograph or little thumbnail in the program directory that you have, and there's a link to Booktopia where you can buy this book. Booktopia definitely has the cheapest price for this this particular textbook, or it certainly did when we put the program directory together. So it's a good way to get it. Now, the program directory, I can just show you what it looks like this. That's the front cover of the program directory. It was sent out with the bulk mailings I did to you. So if people can't remember getting that, send me an email and I'll send you another copy. I won't send it to everyone because it's yet another email. But if you don't have it, let me know, because it's an important directory, because it sets out everything that's happening over from now through to October. So you certainly need to have that. Other questions? Good point. Lucinda said, made a comment that it's a good point to check your spam. I usually remind people to do this, but if you find you haven't got an email that you thought should come through, do have a look in your spam emails just in case it has gone to that. And a comment about the agreement and plan. I'll just see if I can get that open. Just bear with me and I'll try and open it up.
Colleen, I can probably answer that. Look,
thanks. Yeah, you do that.
The agreement's just more stipulating. It just gives you a bit of an idea of an agreement between the mentor and the mentee. Just sets some of those boundaries around the relationship, the things in regards to and about the program. The plan is more just to inform the mentor about what the mentee wants out of the mentor, the mentoring sessions in regards. So it just provides a bit of a guide of how because at the end of the day, we want a bit of an idea, what do you want out of these sessions? And so that we can try and meet those needs in regards to your development. So that's what it's really about. But the agreement's just a simple thing, no different to clinical supervision. You enter into an agreement between parties. These are the rules in regards to the engagement in these sessions, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But the plan is really more about informing us as mentors about what the mentees want, and so that we can work towards trying to accommodate those needs so that you get the best out of each session when we're having it.
Jason, there was also a question about the price of the book. From memory, it's around $75.
Yeah, from memory, it is around $75. It's something that's probably worthwhile adding to your library. It's one I'm going to add as well, because I use the Maudsley and I use a few other things, text and stuff regards to it. But because I work in health, I've got access to a lot of addiction journals, etc., like that. So I'm able to pull on a lot of information from other sources.
Yeah. No, it's an excellent book there. Yep. Okay, well, there's one more question here, I think. No, I think that's all of the questions. What we'll do, I had hoped to try and work my way through it while we were running this. Normally, had Darren been here, I just would have been in the background fiddling around with things. But what I will do for the 23rd of March is our first proper session. I will make sure that people can see each other, so that you do have face-to-face contact, that it's not just names on a screen, so that you'll be able to see each other and you'll be able to speak. And Lucinda, you've got a comment? Lucinda?
Yes, I recommend everyone buy that book. It's a little Bible of drug and alcohol treatment. Covers just about everything, I think. I'm not sure about GHB. I haven't looked in there. The thing to do is keep your receipt and use it as a tax deduction as well, because it's part of our basic treatment. So yeah, it'll be tax deductible if you do buy it.
It is a great book. Leonie, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up.
Yes, just a technical question. I got caught out on the hop tonight because I didn't realise that I actually have to register.
Right.
Do we have to register for each time?
Yes.
Or is it a once-off?
Yeah, you do need to register each time. It's a Zoom registration each time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll think about how I can make the link a bit more obvious that you need to do it.
It was obvious. The link was obvious. It just, when I received the confirmation or whatever, I've forgotten what the email was. I just made an assumption that because with other Zoom interactions, I hadn't had to register. That's all. It was just on my side, administrative on my side. So now I know. I'll make sure I open those emails and go in and register.
Thanks, Leonie. Good. All right. Any final words, Jason or Adam?
Well, look, from my point of view, I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I'm looking to learn as much from you as you may gain from me. Maybe not a lot from me, but I'm hoping to gain a lot from you guys. And I'm looking forward to building on this group to become those experts in drug and alcohol and develop the next generation. And I know Darren is too. It's something that we're very passionate about in regards to it. And looking at how people expand scope and what we can learn from that, and going into different areas in regards to it, and pulling on each other's practice, because I work in a regional and rural area, and what I do is sometimes a lot different from my colleagues that work in metropolitan areas in regards to the level of clinical exposure I get to different things, and the diversity that I see and do in my clinical practice, you know, depending on the area you work. So, and I think that's the beauty of working in drug and alcohol. It is a diverse area. We get lots out of it, and you can expand practice. And it's about how do we do that, and how do we do it well and safely, so that, you know, as you go along, you can expand that scope and delve into lots of different areas.